Hi there, my name's Todd Taylor. I'm the Online Learning Manager here at FIT. A question that I often get is, what's the difference between assignments, discussions, and quizzes? At first, that question seems pretty straightforward. An assignment is a task. It's often the application with a deliverable of some description. A discussion is a conversation or debate about a certain topic in order to reach a decision or just to simply exchange ideas. It helps students explore nuance in a subject matter. So it often involves a group of students. And a quiz is often a test of knowledge based on questions. But then sometimes things get a little bit blurry between these boundaries. Imagine a reflection journal where we're asking students to reflect upon what they learned each week and how each week builds upon or challenges previous weeks. Is that something which students submit each week, or is it more of a discussion with themselves that goes on over the semester? What if I had to develop a project pitch within 2 hours? Is that an assignment, or could that be a quiz? What if we are asking our students to do a peer critique on a piece of work that they're all working on? And what if students are on a work trip, on a field trip, and we're asking them to answer a series of questions? Could that be an assignment rather than a quiz? And of course, what about a group exam where we get students to form groups and answer questions together? Let's start breaking down assignments, discussions, and quizzes a little bit further so we can see which item or which tool works best for our particular issues. So, okay, there's 3 things that assignments, discussions, and quizzes all have in common. They're all graded. So we can all give them marks and they can all inform the gradebook. They can all measure individual performance, and they all have open and closed dates. That's what they have in common. The first difference that we can potentially pick out is that discussions do not necessarily have a due date, whereas assignments and quizzes do. This might sound strange at first, but think about it this way. With a discussion, we're often asking for multiple interactions. We're asking students to come in early in the week and post their initial post. And then we're asking students to come in later in the week to respond to other students. So there's not a particular due date that we want students to interact with the discussions. We want multiple interactions. So therefore, they don't necessarily have due dates, although they can have open and closed dates. And after the closed date, they can no longer engage with the discussions. Another difference is around whether we can put time limits on our interactions. So assignments, they don't have time limits. Discussions don't have time limits. But with quizzes, we can limit the time that students interact with the quiz. That is, if we wanted to do that 2-hour pitch project where students had 2 hours to develop a project pitch, record it, and submit it, we could use quizzes for that. Another dimension which can help us distinguish between the various items is the number of prompts or questions that we have. Often, assignments and discussions are single prompted. There's a single item that students respond to. Whereas with quizzes, we often have multiple instruments. We have multiple questions that we're asking students to engage with. Although I'll put a caveat on that one. If we go back to that project pitch, then there might be just one thing that students are engaging with. Again, it depends on your need. Another way we can distinguish between assignments, discussions, and quizzes is whether they're instructor-centered or not. So with assignments, they're usually one-to-one interactions. That's one student submits a bit of work for the instructor to respond, grade, and respond to. Sometimes assignments can be many to one as well, but they're generally instructor-centered. They're going straight to the instructor. The same with quizzes. They're definitely one-on-one. One student does the quiz and goes to the instructor, or not even the instructor, it might be an automated quiz. Whereas discussions are often not instructor-centered. They are often peer-based. They're for students to engage in a conversation to gain a common understanding or to gain an appreciation of nuance when we put concepts into the real world. Now, I'm going to put a caveat on this one again. If we go back to our reflection journal, we said that discussions might be a good forum for that because they don't have due dates. The students can reflect back on it. But in this case, we don't want discussions to be peer-based. We want them to be instructor-based. And we can do this with discussions as well. We can have group discussions, and group discussions can be based on groups of one. So in this case, you can have instructor-centered discussions, although most of the time discussions are peer-based. I just talked about items being group-based or individual-based. This is another dimension where we can distinguish between assignments, discussions, and quizzes. I mentioned that discussions can be group-based, and so can assignments. You can have group assignments. You cannot, however, have group quizzes. Quizzes are definitely one-on-one interactions. So if we use our example of a group quiz where we want our students to get together to answer questions and then submit those questions, we cannot do that with the quizzes tool. In this case, it might be either the assignments or discussions tools that we might choose to use. Understanding that with those two tools, we cannot impose time limits. So that's one trade-off you might want to consider as well. Another dimension which we might use to distinguish between assignments, discussions, and quizzes is whether the activity is deliverable based. So often assignments are deliverable based. There's a task we want students to do. They'll be doing something. They're going to be producing something, some sort of body of work or a presentation. Whereas discussions and quizzes generally aren't. They're more knowledge based. Although, again, I'll put some caveats around that. Discussions could be a tool where we're asking students to submit a work in progress deliverable and have each other do a peer critique on it. That could be compared to your own work. What's one thing you like about these other students' piece of work? And looking at your own piece of work, what did you do well? With quizzes, you can also have students submit work. So going back to our 2-hour project pitch, you could definitely use quizzes to do that as well. Now, this one is one that is really helps us distinguish between assignments, discussions, and quizzes. Quizzes, we can have automated grading. So with closed types of questions, such as multiple choice questions, true, false questions, multi-select questions, there's either a right or wrong answer, and we get Brightspace to automatically grade the quizzes for us. We can't do that with assignments and discussions. They're a little bit more fuzzy and there's no right or wrong answer. There is a caveat around automatic grading when it comes to quizzes though, because if you're using written response questions or you're asking students to upload files, then the automatic grading is not available to you. You need some intervention as the instructor to grade those items. I did mention that assignments and discussions don't have automatic grading, but they do have the ability to add rubrics. Rubrics help you structure your grading and help you grade according to a set of criteria and performance levels. So that's available for assignments and discussions, but rubrics aren't available for quizzes. As a consequence, if you're asking students to upload a body, like a bit more substantial piece of work where there's some nuance involved, maybe discussions or quizzes, discussions or assignments might be a better way to go. And a final way that we can distinguish between assignments, discussions, and quizzes is the amount of feedback that you might give as an instructor. If you're giving a lot of feedback, if you want to annotate a student's work, then I would recommend assignments. Assignments give you the ability to annotate a student's submission, as well as leave a lot more feedback for them to consider. Whereas discussions is more for if you get involved too much as an instructor, you might kind of get in the way of that student discussion. Although at the end of the week, you can definitely send out a post highlighting key themes, as well as acknowledge some great points brought up by students. You can also add comments as a quiz, but generally I would recommend assignments if you're looking to give substantial feedback to your students. So going through our few examples that we gave around where the lines might become a bit blurry between assignments, discussions, and quizzes, let's go through these again. So the reflection journal. Yeah, we can do that as an assignment. But if it's an assignment, students are submitting one body work each week. They're not necessarily reflective upon what they submitted earlier. That could be a great opportunity for a discussion where we're limiting it down to one student. A project pitch, which you have to deliver within 2 hours. Yeah, we could do that as an assignment, but that could also be a quiz where we're giving the student a very tight time limit to submit that quiz. Submit that project pitch. A peer critique of a body of work. That seems to be pretty well aligned with a discussion where students can upload their work in progress work product. A worksheet from a field trip, because there's no time limit on that one. That might be great. That might be aligned with an assignment where students upload that worksheet that you've given them and you can mark that worksheet. It could potentially be also a quiz, but you might not be able to take that quiz out on the field with you. And the final one that we discussed was a group exam. That could be an opportunity for an assignment because groups are not available for quizzes. So you could set that up as a group assignment or even a group discussion where if the students are online, they can be seen debating the answers before answering the question officially on the piece of paper or in that post. The disadvantages of a group exam, though, is you cannot set a time limit on it. But still, it gives you a different set of options. So hopefully, this has helped clarify when you might use assignments, discussions, and quizzes, and help give you some thought about when's the best time to use each one as well. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Okay, talk to you later. This is Todd Taylor for the Office of Online Learning. Okay, see ya.